demilitarization of Ukraine as part of their agenda, as well as the lifting of sanctions, withdrawing lawsuits, canceling arrest warrants, and the like. First of all, the U.S. reaction to the continual bombing in Ukraine by Russia, and second of all, the Russian demand for demilitarizing. Would the U.S. ever consider requiring the demilitarizing of Ukraine as a condition of a peace plan?
Well, you know I can't and would not discuss what the options were or what's on the minds of our diplomats. And I understand, and I hear from people outside of this briefing room and certainly from all of you, and it's your job to ask. But that is not something we can do. It's harmful to get ahead of what our experts, what our diplomats, what the Secretary of State, what the President of the United States, the most powerful people in the world meeting to find a resolution to this, and discussing it or speculating does not help. It increases, I think, fear and confusion. So I won't do that. But I do have something I can tell you that the Secretary said to me about the situation just a short time ago, Andrea Mitchell. We are now at a time where concrete proposals need to be delivered by the two parties on how to end this conflict. How we proceed from here is a decision that belongs now to the President. If there is not progress, we will step back as mediators in this process.
Well, he said on Meet the Press that this week was going to be pivotal.
Oh, sure. This sounds like a pivotal statement to me.
Yeah. So is there some sort of a time frame?
Well, he said now.
Just said?
He said now is the time where concrete proposals need to be delivered by the two parties in the conflict. And if there is not progress, which we leave, of course, I'm not going to speculate on what that timeline means to the President or to the Secretary. But that is a very distinct statement from the Secretary. Both the Secretary and the President are very transparent men, and the American people have been watching this process openly, which itself is kind of a new experience. But that is what he said to me just a little bit ago.
Can you speak to his level of frustration with the process? It seems to be reflected in his statement.
I will not channel the Secretary. He again, is very available. And he has been, again, you saw him this weekend on television, and he's a very clear, often unguarded, transparent man who cares about the nature of what is transpiring on this planet in a very unique position to make a difference. And that is what he wants to do. Yes, sir.
Just to follow up on what the Secretary has said, you quoted him as saying concrete proposals need to be delivered by both sides. Proposals on what?
Well, obviously to end the conflict.
So
I mean, clearly it's about what they've been working toward is a ceasefire, a complete, full, durable ceasefire, right? Not a 3-day moment so you can celebrate something else. A complete, durable ceasefire and an end to the conflict.
Does this mean that the proposals that the United States had on the table, is it off the table now that you're seeking?
I'm not going to speculate on what the statement that's been made here means about things that have existed or have been discussed before. It's just what he has said today, and I think it's clear.
Fair enough. And my second question on North Korea, they acknowledge finally that they apparently have sent their soldiers to fight for Russia in Ukraine. Does this change your approach, your view to the conflict at all? And any response that you could come up with?
Well, we know this is pretty simple. North Korea is not being helpful. They're not being helpful. There are other nations that also are facilitating this carnage, and their actions make it possible to continue. Third countries, like North Korea, have perpetuated the Russia-Ukraine war, and they bear responsibility for it.
China?
We continue, North Korea, I'm speaking about North Korea, and other third countries, like North Korea. We continue to be concerned by North Korea's direct involvement in the war, North Korea's military deployment to Russia, and any support provided by the Russian Federation to the DPRK in return must end. Russia's training of North Korean soldiers directly violates Security Council resolutions 1718, 1874, and 2270, which collectively impose a broad prohibition on providing or receiving military training or assistance to or from the DPRK. All right? Yes, sir. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
Thank you. On the Middle East, UN Rights Chief Volker Turk today called for concerted efforts to end the Israeli blockade of the Gaza Strip, and Amnesty International accused Israel of committing a live-streamed genocide against Palestinians. We heard President Trump on Friday acknowledge the suffering of people in Gaza and the need for aid to go in. What is the department's view of the ongoing blockade, and will the Secretary push to lift it? And I have a second question.
President Trump said just a few days ago that there is a very big need for medicine and food regarding, of course, Gaza and Gaza aid, and that we are taking care of it. And again, within the framework of the negotiations, the actions, the efforts, as we've discussed, I think every briefing, which is appropriate. I think the President of the United States making that statement makes clear that actions being considered and taken, and that the President is working on it.
So we are taking care of it. How will that translate to actual
Well,
actions?
we'll find out. He's not a slow man. Also, the United States, of course, supports the flow of humanitarian aid with safeguards to ensure assistance is not diverted, looted, or misused by terrorist groups such as Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. But for one thing, we certainly, I think I can say generally about the President, is that when he says something, he acts, and he doesn't lollygag. And in this particular case, with both men setting these first 100 days as the hallmark of the nature of where they've both been personally committed, Secretary Rubio and President Trump, it is on peace and ceasefires for both Ukraine and Russia, and certainly in Gaza, and his noting what he wants to accomplish in that regard. Again, there's a very big need for medicine, food, and we're taking care of it. So it will not be long, I'm sure, to see the results of his work.
The second question,
yes, sir.
Senator Sanders.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, please.
Thanks, Tammy. I wanted to move on to a country which is a neighbor, in fact, Canada. Unless mistaken, I haven't seen any official reaction by the White House or the State Department or officials on the election.
I have one.
Victory
I have a
last night of
yes.
Mark Carney
Yes,
as the Prime Minister. And he pledged today that a united Canada would confront the President.
Well, here's what we can say about Canada. The United States extends its congratulations to Prime Minister Mark Carney and his party on their win in Canada's recent federal elections. The U.S.-Canada relationship remains one of the most extensive in the world. We look forward to working with Prime Minister Carney's government, particularly on key issues such as trade fairness, combating illegal immigration, halting the flow of fentanyl and other dangerous drugs, and countering the Chinese Communist Party influence in our hemisphere. All right. Yeah, Daphne.
Thank you. On Syria, we're reporting that the Syrian foreign minister is set to meet with senior U.S. State Department officials later today in New York. Who will he meet from state, and what will Washington's message be to him on sanctions relief?
Well, of course, we know that we can confirm that some representatives of the Syrian interim authorities are in New York for various UN meetings, but you knew that. We continue to assess our Syria policy cautiously and will judge the interim authorities by their actions. We are not normalizing diplomatic relations with Syria at this time, and I can preview nothing for you regarding any meetings. I have no meetings at all to be able to describe or to confirm for you.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you
I have another
I'll
question
follow
on
up.
Cuba, but if there's other questions, I'm
All
sorry.
right, go ahead. Cuba.
Okay.
All right.
Cuba today arrested high-profile dissident Jose Daniel Ferrer for violating the terms of his parole just 3 months after releasing him from jail as part of a Vatican-brokered deal with the Biden administration. And Felix Navarro, another high-profile dissident, was also arrested.
Mm-hmm.
Does the State Department have any reaction to these arrests?
Yes, we do. We strongly condemn the brutal treatment and unjust detention of Cuban patriots Jose Daniel Ferrer and his wife and young son, as well as Felix Navarro and other pro-democracy activists. We call for the immediate release of the hundreds of unjustly detained political prisoners and prisoners of conscience that the Cuban regime holds. All right. Now, who is somebody in the back? We were following up here. Syria?
Yes.
Yes, please. So go ahead.
In the jails in Syria, there are around 9,500 terrorists from ISIS. And I wonder whether the United States is going to ease the sanctions so those terrorists in Syria don't take advantage of the situation there. Also, there was yesterday civil unrest near Damascus. I wonder whether you have any comment on that. Thank you.
I cannot comment on the nature of what's happening inside of Syria or the nature of the reaction of our government or of the State Department. I'm sorry about that.